H.M.S. Victory. How about a nice cup of tea? Would you like sugar? The British love of tea drinking began with the Georgians. At first, all tea came from China. Then the British broke that monopoly by smuggling tea seeds out of China and starting to grow the crop themselves in their territories in India, where it became big business. Sugar came from British territories in the Caribbean, another part of the growing British Empire. Tobacco came from British colonies in America. Silks, cotton, coffee, spices, British trade and territorial interests spanned the entire globe. Warships like H.M.S. Victory are the reason why all this was possible. British trade and British colonies were protected by the British Royal Navy. On the 21st of October 1805, the Long Sea War with the French Emperor Napoleon came to its last great battle. 33 warships of the combined fleets of France and Spain faced 27 ships of the Royal Navy under the command of Admiral Lord Nelson. The British fleet was outnumbered and outgunned. By now, Admiral Nelson was a famous British hero. As a leader, he was both brave and clever, and he was loved and admired by his men. He had won many victories, but he had lost an arm and an eye in the process. Nelson's plan was that his ship should sail in two lines and break the line of enemy ships in the centre and rear. The British ships at the front would face the worst of the enemy cannon fire, and that is where Nelson was to be in his flagship, H.M.S. Victory. As they sailed into action, Nelson ordered that his signalling flags be raised with a message to his fleet. England expects that every man will do his duty. Nelson watched the battle from the deck of H.M.S. Victory while wearing his bright admiral's uniform. This was a most dangerous place to stay, but he refused to go anywhere safer. He wanted to inspire his men by sharing in their danger. The British ships were cleared for action. The glass windows from the stern and all the furniture were taken to be stowed safely in the hold. The ship's boats were towed astern. The crew's hammocks were rolled, soaked with water, and packed into the netting that lined the main deck. This would give some protection from bullets. Each 32-pounder gun had a crew of 7 men to load and fire it. After each shot, the gun was cleared of debris with a long corkscrew worm and then sponged to put out any embers. Gunpowder bag, wad, cannonball, and another wad were each rammed into place. Next, the powder bag was pierced through the touch hole, and the gun fired by pushing in a lighted slow match. The huge gun recoiled viciously, held by men holding thick restraining ropes. The sound was deafening, and the deck filled with blinding smoke. Fresh supplies of gunpowder bags were brought up from the copper-lined magazine by the powder monkeys, boys aged about 12. These bags could not be stored near the guns because of the risk of explosion. Unlike the French and Spanish, the British sailors were well drilled and experienced. Because of this, they could fire their guns much faster. One of the Victory's crew, able seaman Benjamin Stevenson, wrote to his sister after the battle, "Dear sister, we had a very hard engagement with them indeed, which lasted 4 hours and a half. constant fire, but thank God we had the good fortune to gain the victory. After the prisoners came on board, they said that the devil loaded the guns, for it was impossible for man to load and fire so quick as we did. Enemy cannonballs smashed through the ships, piercing men's bodies with vicious wooden splinters. Casualties were carried to safety below the waterline of the Victory, to the surgeon's table. Here the surgeon cut off the shattered arms and legs. He had to work quickly, as there was no anaesthetic. As the second British column attacked the enemy's rear, Nelson smashed through their centre. H.M.S. Victory destroyed the French flagship Beau Centaur and went on to fight the Redoubtable at close range. While the fighting was fiercest, Admiral Lord Nelson was hit by a musket ball and carried below to die. The battle that had begun at midday was over by 4:30. The British had decisively won, taking 22 enemy ships for the loss of none of their own. Nelson was told of this victory. As he lay dying, he said, "Thank God I have done my duty." HMS Victory was badly battered and had to be towed to Gibraltar for repair. Nelson's body was taken home to be buried in state in St. Paul's Cathedral. From this moment, Britain would remain unchallenged as the world's greatest sea power for over 100 years. For good or ill, the future of the growing British Empire was secure.